Cutting a capillary. So, if you want the welcome package that is mentioned, you can provide me a client code and I will order you a welcome package. It comes with all these items here. These are all required in order to cut your own capillary: the cutting stone, tweezers, extra O-rings. This pushes the O-ring down, a loop, and the template. Right now, we are going to discuss the capillaries. You'll find two types of capillaries. You have the pre-cut and the custom capillaries. The pre-cut capillaries, you'll sometimes run into a problem when trying to redo the capillary. That is because this piece right here does not come all the way down. So when you go to load it on this side, you end up hitting a wall because it can't bend properly. There is a way around this, but this video will not show you how to do that. If you need help on that, please come see one of your CE trainers and they will walk you through how to properly successfully load a capillary using a pre-cut capillary cartridge. Today, we are going to be working with a custom cartridge. This already has a capillary in it. So this is the end result of what you're going for. If you see your capillary already looks like this, the first thing you need to do is break it down so that you can put in your new capillary. The way that you do that is you squeeze these parts together and remove the aperture. It has a small washer inside. The easiest way to get that out is to use the ends of the capillary itself to remove. Also, it's a good idea to have a clean white area so that you don't lose all the pieces. After you remove the aperture, you just take your thumb to pop off these corners, slide this piece out, do the same thing over here, hold the capillary, slide that part off. Now your capillary will flow freely. This one was already broke inside, so it's definitely a good thing that we're changing. You can take this capillary you just removed and throw it away. When it comes to apertures, there's two types. There's a 2 and an 8. It stands for 2 millimeters and 8 millimeters. Now, I'm not sure if you can see down in there, but there's a distinct difference between the two. You can tell by looking how much light comes through. You're going to get more resolution or more area with an 8 than you are with a 2. This method calls for an 8, so we're going to place the 2 off to the side so that we don't get confused. These kits that come with the box have 2 capillaries inside of them. If you were to get a separate just capillary box, it will have 3. The good thing about these capillaries is, other than the window, which is in this area, the capillary itself is very strong. It has an extra coating on the outside, which makes it so the glass tube doesn't break too easily. Now, when removing this from its package, the best thing to do is to open it up straight and then pull it out. My technique is I actually use my legs to hold this bottom part, and I use my other hand to straighten it out, and then I pull the whole thing straight out. When removing it, you're going to notice that you're going to pull straight out, and you'll have a little window right here. This window is the very fragile part. You never touch this window, and you never bend this window. This window will break very easily. This part, however, has that coating on it, so it's protected. So you can kind of move it around. You don't have to worry about breaking it. It's not going to break very easily. So you can twist it and move it. It's okay. This window, though, you want to be very careful around it. Now to load the cartridge, you put the window part toward the very end, and you hold your fingers on the opposite end of the window. There's two holes here. This is where the coolant goes in. This is where your capillary goes in. You're going to put this part in and start feeding it through. You'll see it come through this part right here. You just slowly keep feeding it, just a little bit at a time. As I was saying, if you had a pre-cut capillary cartridge, this is where you would run into a problem. It would get stuck here and you would be pushing and not realizing that it's not going in. Started to poke through the bottom. Still have plenty of room before I get to the window, which is right there. Once you get to this point, you can grab this piece and pull it through. Now you can actually be pretty tough with this because some cartridges have a lot more area that you're going to need to pull through. So I've even had to where I've had to wrap it around and pull very tight like that. As you pull through, you want to get the window right in the center. Now, before you cut the capillary or anything else, you want to put these pieces back on. If you were to have this already cut, it's glass on the inside, so glass can be sharp. And as you're feeding it through here, it might poke out sideways. So, you go ahead, feed this through, hold this piece to pull down. Again, I still hold while I pull tight. It might move the window just a little bit, but at the end you're going to readjust it. The point of holding this down is if I didn't hold it and I just tried to push it in, it would put pressure on this window and could break that window. So always hold this while you push this piece back in. And you're going to hear two snaps. There's going to be a snap here and a snap here. Again, do the same thing for this side. As I was holding it, it didn't move the window too much, so we're good there. You'll also notice this right here has a little bit of play. This can affect your run time. So what I do is for the very first time, I always try to get it right in the center. Some methods, you'll notice your run time will be better if you pull it all the way tight. Others, push it all the way up. So since we don't know, we're going to go right in the middle. Now we cut the ends. I like to cut the ends before I put the aperture back in there, simply because you don't know if your window is going to accidentally move a little bit while you're cutting. It shouldn't, but for safety reasons. If this is your first time cutting, I suggest putting this piece back here and practicing down here. And then when you're ready for your final cut, you move this back to where it needs to go. You cut the capillary with this piece here. It has a sharp side and a dull side. The sharp side is when this facing down. So you want the writing up, this part facing down, and you want to hold it in about a 45-degree angle. It doesn't take much to cut this, so you don't have to apply a lot of pressure. If you're scratching really hard into this plate, you are using way too much force. All you're trying to do is 45-degree angle it and just lightly push and slide, and it should come right off like this. Again, this part up, 45-degree angle. I put my hand here on this part so that it doesn't wiggle around. 45-degree angle, slide, and it comes right off. Now comes the tricky part. You need to make sure these ends are perfectly flat. The way that you do that is there's an example inside of the ATM. Where it needs to look like this. If you were to look straight down on it, you would actually see this is the coating going around and this is the glass tube on the inside. You can actually see that picture using this. The way that you use this is the large round part is where you would put your eye, and this part is the part that you would put against this piece. I suggest starting almost where this is touching the capillary and slowly backing up, and then you'll see it. I'm going to see if I can do this through the camera. See it. You want to make this part nice and flat. But see, this is not actually nice and flat. This has little ridges on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually file this down a little bit. The way that you file it down is you use the cutting stone and you use this flat part here. You hold this tip really close and you just score the edges. Try to be as flat as possible. Go one direction so that way if there's any extra glass or particles, it doesn't go inside of the capillary. I like to give it a little thump and then smooth it out with my hands. That way if there is anything inside, it flipped out. Now we're going to take a look at it again. I'm going to shave it down just a little bit more. See if I can give y'all a good looking capillary. Okay, let's see if I can get this to show. Not sure if it's showing right, but that's about what you're going to try to look for. It has a tiny little piece off on the end. That's coating. It's not actually glass. But I've got it now. And there's no way for me to really show this end to you. Hopefully some of that went through that you could see it. But that is how you do it, and you do it on both sides. Make sure that they are completely flat and that you have a picture like this. Again, you want to have this part is the part you're looking through with your eye, and this part goes toward the capillary. After you're done with that, you want to make sure this window is right in the middle. We're using the 8, so we turn it back this way. This one has a washer in it, so we want to remove the washer. Make sure to check for that first. If it does have a washer in it and you try to put it in there, it's going to break your window. So make sure to take the washer out. There's no washer inside. Just clip it back in. Next, you're going to add the washer. The way that you add the washer, the easiest way is with tweezers. And this piece that pushes it back down. So you want to pick up your washer. Try to place it in there as flat as possible. And then this piece is specially made to push it down without applying to the perfect depth, without applying any pressure to your window. Now your capillary is ready. This was all done on an uncoated capillary. If this were a coated capillary, these parts would actually have come out of the box with ends on them. And that's because the inside of the capillary is coated. If you're working with a coated capillary, you need to cut one of the ends off before you feed it through. And then after you're done assembling your cartridge, you want to store the ends both in water. This way the gel doesn't dry out. with our capillary cut and everything made, we're ready to go up to the system.